Annam Brahma. The ancient Hindu teaching reminds us, food is God. This simple phrase speaks volumes about the reverence different cultures and religions hold for food. Hindus, Parsis, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, across the globe, diverse faiths offer prayers of gratitude before consuming food. It's a recognition of the divine gift that sustains us, a precious resource provided for the nourishment of all humankind. Food represents the very cycle of life, a fundamental element for the survival of all living beings. Just as a plant withers and dies without water, our bodies cannot function, cannot exist, without the sustenance that food provides. It's a basic, fundamental truth that connects us all. We are all dependent on this precious gift.
And yet, in a world overflowing with abundance, millions go hungry every single day. Families, right here in our own communities and across the globe, struggle with food insecurity. It's a jarring paradox. More than enough food is produced to nourish every man, woman, and child on this planet. Yet over 800 million people suffer from hunger. Every single day, every 4 seconds, the unthinkable happens. Another human life is lost to hunger. These aren't just statistics. They represent mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters denied the most basic human need. So how can this be? How can we reconcile the bounty of our fields and farms with the gnawing emptiness in the bellies of so many? Food waste is a global crisis with far-reaching consequences. The numbers are staggering. 30 to 50% of all food produced never reaches a human mouth. It's lost somewhere along the journey from farm to table. Take a walk behind any grocery store and you'll see first-hand evidence. Overflowing dumpsters filled with discarded food, much of it still perfectly edible. Instead of nourishing bodies, this food ends up rotting in landfills. This callous disregard for food has become ingrained in our society. It's easy to toss out a wilted head of lettuce or scrape leftovers into the garbage without a second thought. But each discarded apple core, each mold-infested container of yogurt, represents a ripple effect of waste. We waste every single resource that went into producing, transporting, and storing it.
The water used to irrigate crops is essentially poured down the drain when the food goes uneaten. The fossil fuels burned to power tractors, trucks, and ships are wasted when the food ends up in a landfill.
And it's not just the tangible resources that are lost. Imagine the countless hours of human labor, all for food that never fulfills its intended purpose. The environmental consequences of food waste are far-reaching and alarming. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, food waste accounts for a staggering 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions.
To put that into perspective, if food waste were a country, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. Consider the decomposition process that occurs when organic matter like food decomposes in landfills. As bacteria break down the waste, they release methane, a potent greenhouse gas with a warming potential 25 times greater than carbon dioxide over a 100-year period.
This methane release contributes significantly to climate change, exacerbating extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and disruptions to ecosystems. Furthermore, the production of food requires significant land use, often leading to deforestation and habitat loss. When we waste food, we are essentially wasting the land, water, and energy that went into producing it, putting further strain on our planet's finite resources.
The clearing of forests for agriculture not only destroys vital carbon sinks, but also displaces wildlife, contributing to biodiversity loss. The excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides in agriculture further compounds the environmental impact. These chemicals can leach into waterways, polluting rivers, lakes, and oceans, harming aquatic life and threatening human health.
The production and transportation of these chemicals also consume significant energy and resources, adding to the overall carbon footprint of our food system. The link between food waste and climate change is undeniable. Food production and waste generate significant greenhouse gas emissions. If food waste were a country, it would rank among the top emitters globally.
Wasting food means wasting the energy used to grow, harvest, and transport it. This energy consumption releases greenhouse gases, accelerating climate change.
Decomposing food waste in landfills releases methane, a potent greenhouse gas. Reducing food waste is essential for mitigating climate change. The sheer scale of water wasted due to food waste is staggering. Imagine a river, enough water to sustain entire ecosystems and quench the thirst of countless people. Now picture that entire river, its precious water squandered. That's the equivalent of the water wasted globally each year due to food loss and waste.
It's a sobering thought, a stark reminder of the hidden costs embedded in our food choices. Every drop of water used to irrigate crops represents a precious resource lost when food goes uneaten. In arid regions, water scarcity threatens livelihoods and food security.
The energy embedded in the food we waste each year generates more than 3.3 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide. That's equivalent to the total annual emissions of a major industrialized nation.
Food production drives deforestation, clearing forests for cropland and pasture. This disrupts ecosystems, threatens biodiversity, and displaces communities.
Food waste symbolizes global inequalities. While millions go hungry, we discard food on a massive scale. Reducing food waste is a moral obligation for a just and sustainable future. More and more people are recognizing the urgent need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to avert the most catastrophic consequences of climate change. The scientific consensus is clear. We need to act swiftly and decisively to transition to a low-carbon economy, and reducing food waste is a significant piece of that puzzle.
Climate change is not a distant threat. It's a present reality, impacting communities around the world. From devastating floods and wildfires to prolonged droughts and rising sea levels, the consequences of a warming planet are becoming increasingly evident. And while climate change affects everyone, it disproportionately impacts the most vulnerable populations, those who have contributed the least to the problem. The impacts of climate change, particularly on agriculture and food security, are exacerbating existing inequalities, pushing millions further into poverty and hunger. As temperatures rise and weather patterns become more erratic, crop yields are projected to decline, particularly in regions already facing food insecurity. This is a recipe for social unrest, mass migration, and conflict.
We have a moral imperative to act, to break this cycle of waste and inequality. Reducing food waste is not just an environmental issue, it's a social justice issue, a human rights issue, and a matter of intergenerational equity. It's about ensuring that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, has access to the food they need to thrive. Let's look at an example. The United States, a nation synonymous with abundance, a wealthy nation that everyone dreams of living in, faces a disconcerting paradox. Amidst overflowing supermarkets and a cultural penchant for supersized portions, millions of Americans struggle with hunger. It's a stark juxtaposition, a moral dilemma that lays bare the inequalities embedded in our food system.
Consider this. While mountains of perfectly edible food are discarded daily, tossed out by grocery stores, restaurants, and households alike, nearly 50 million Americans, including a disproportionate number of children and seniors, face the daily struggle of food insecurity. They go to bed hungry, their bodies and minds deprived of the nourishment needed to thrive. How can we, in good conscience, reconcile these two realities? How can we justify such staggering levels of waste when so many of our fellow citizens lack access to the most basic human need? It's a question that cuts to the core of our values, challenging our notions of fairness, compassion, and shared responsibility.
The statistics paint a stark picture. In 2010, the United States wasted over 130 billion pounds of food, a significant portion of which was still perfectly edible. That's equivalent to more than 1,000 pounds of food wasted per family, a staggering amount that underscores the pervasiveness of this problem. We are taught from a young age to appreciate the value of food, to be grateful for every meal, and to avoid waste. Yet, somewhere along the way, this fundamental value seems to get lost in the shuffle of our busy lives and the abundance that surrounds us. We've become disconnected from the true cost of food, both in terms of the resources required to produce it and the human toll of its waste.
It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that our individual choices don't really matter, that one person's wasted apple core or half-eaten plate of food won't make a difference. But this couldn't be further from the truth. When millions of people make these seemingly insignificant choices every day, The cumulative impact is staggering.
Food waste is not just an environmental problem, it's a reflection of our values, our priorities, and our collective conscience. It speaks to a disconnect between our actions and our aspirations, a gap between the world we want to create and the reality we perpetuate through our choices. The good news is that we have the power to change this. By raising awareness about the issue, challenging our own assumptions, and making conscious choices about the food we buy, consume, and discard, we can begin to shift the paradigm. Every time we toss out food, we're discarding the resources, water, energy, land, and labor used to produce it. Imagine the gallons of water, fossil fuels, and electricity consumed for food that ends up in landfills. The true cost of food waste goes beyond the environment. It's about millions going hungry and farmers' efforts going to waste. Food waste is a moral crisis, a symptom of a broken system prioritizing profit over people and planet. It's a call to action to reevaluate our relationship with food for a sustainable future. The problem of food waste can feel overwhelming, but each of us has a role in creating a sustainable food system. By making conscious choices about the food we buy, consume, and discard, we can make a difference.
Educate yourself about food waste, understand its scale, and take simple steps to reduce your impact.
Reducing food waste is about appreciating the preciousness of food and the effort that goes into every meal. It's about recognizing food as a gift to be cherished and consumed with gratitude. Even small actions can contribute to a larger solution.
Each discarded apple core represents a choice point to make a different decision.
Be mindful of your food purchases, take inventory before shopping, and plan meals to avoid waste.
Embrace imperfect produce and get creative with leftovers to minimize waste.
By reimagining leftovers as culinary opportunities, we can stretch our food budget and reduce waste. Changing habits can be challenging, but every journey begins with a single step.
Pay attention to portion sizes and start with smaller portions to reduce waste.
Familiarize yourself with food labeling and storage guidelines to extend shelf life.
Talk to your community about food waste and share tips and recipes.
By creating a supportive network, we can amplify our impact and inspire others. Reducing food waste at the source is essential, but systems to divert unavoidable scraps are also important.
Composting transforms food waste into valuable resources for gardens.
Diverting food scraps from landfills reduces methane emissions and creates nutrient-rich soil.
Anaerobic digestion for larger-scale waste produces biogas and nutrient-rich fertilizer.
Individual actions are essential, but collaboration between governments, businesses, and citizens is crucial.
Governments can create policies that encourage food waste reduction and support sustainable practices.
Schools and community centers can foster a culture of food consciousness.
Governments can invest in infrastructure to facilitate food recovery and redistribution.
Supporting organizations that reduce food waste promotes sustainable food systems.
Addressing food waste requires investments in infrastructure and innovation.
Cold chain infrastructure is essential for preserving perishable foods.
Technological innovations can revolutionize food waste management.
Food sharing platforms connect businesses with those seeking surplus food.
Advancements in food waste processing technologies contribute to a circular and sustainable food system. Shifting the paradigm from waste to value.
Businesses must adopt sustainable practices to minimize waste and maximize resource efficiency.
Businesses can explore innovative models that capitalize on food waste.
Consumers play a crucial role by supporting sustainable businesses and making conscious food choices.
Together, we can create a market demand for change. A call to conscience, honoring food as sacred.
We've lost sight of the inherent value of food amidst convenience and abundance.
Millions go hungry while we discard edible food, a moral crisis of a broken system.
Recognizing the urgency, we can create a more just and sustainable food future.
It's a call to reclaim the sacredness of food and ensure everyone has access to nourishment. Empowering change, our collective responsibility.
Embrace a mindful approach to food in our kitchens.
Engage in conversations about food waste and advocate for policy changes.
Every meal is an opportunity to make a difference.
Align our actions with our values, recognizing food as a precious gift. A world without hunger, a vision for the future.
Imagine a world where every child is fed and resources are used sustainably.
Supermarkets and restaurants prioritize waste reduction, and food banks ensure surplus food reaches those in need.
Education systems empower future generations with knowledge and skills for informed food choices.
Let's choose to be part of the solution, creating a legacy of abundance, not waste. Please share this message with your friends and family. Please comment your thoughts, like, and subscribe for more inspirational videos.